Strangely, from your little island in space, you were gone forth into the dark, great realms of time, where all the souls that never die veer and swoop on their vast, strange errands. The little earthly island has dwindled like a jumping-off place into nothingness, for you have jumped off, you know not how, into the dark, wide mystery of time, where the past is vastly alive and the future is not separated off.
My parents, Barb and Diego Benaki, came here in 1884 with such visions.
Do you know what these tiny grains on this leaf are, Vega?
No, Mama. What are they?
They're eggs. Tiny, tiny eggs. You know, I've always thought of eggs as promises. A thrush's egg is a promise of bird song. A swan's egg, a promise of grace and elegance.
And these tiny eggs, what promise do they hold, Mama?
They promise silk, my daughter. Silk for dresses, for drapes, for pillows, and all manner of beautiful things.
We've always had a connection with silk. And my father's family were all silk merchants, and he, of course, worked in their business, even after he met Mama and they moved away. She loved silk too. When we were little, before we moved to England, she kept silkworms in boxes for us, and we fed them mulberry leaves until they made the most wonderful cocoons. Our papa had grand dreams of silk and of wine for the island. So did his mama, a grandmama Cortelezzi.
My mama, she was such a woman. She had the passion and fire of the Spanish and a tongue that could cut you in two like a knife. But she had such a love for the silk. She sent me into the world with that same love and that same desire.
I just know that she would have loved Maria, our beautiful island.
Ah, this island. Name for a woman. It must sometimes have seemed like a siren that shipwrecked many a man's dreams. Its beauty like its story. It's compelling. The first people here, the Tyreddeme band of the Oyster Bay tribe, they named the island Toarra-Marra-Monah.
Toarra-Marra-Monah.
Soul creeps upon a place, even as the lichen across the rocks, as the sun on sheer mountain cliffs or the cold wind keening through the sheoaks. Waves break on a shore, rough and unkind. The cry of the ocean meeting the cry of the land, one element devouring the other. Land and sea in constant embrace, in constant argument. Take the wind. Bend it to your want. Make it your voice, your heart, your very soul. To the south, the great right whales blistering the ocean swell as seagulls reel and cry, dive and rise, dive again. Soft footprints in wet sand, short and wide, splayed toes of a man who leaves his reed canoe, knowing he'll make another for the return trip. Tight and dry he'll make it from the spongy grasses that ring the island. With infinite patience, he'll burn his dead mother's flesh and bones till only ash remains, and then folded in sacred reeds held quiet in the earth. A canopy of eucalypt bark marking the grave. Was there a symbol, crossed sticks or a pile of stones? A mark like a rune or a bird? A ring of shells around that smoothed pile of ash? What sounds came to him from a mother's drifting soul, out there in the wind, hushing through the trees and clapping at the sea? Toarra-Marra-Monah.
Toarra-Marra-Monah. Papa used to tell me stories of what the island was like before he arrived. Told me that the Aborigines lived without contact from any outsiders for thousands of years, till men came in boats. Boats from Holland, from England, from France. Those Frenchmen were part of a new renaissance. Their writings recorded some of the first contacts between the original people and the early explorers. They were curious about everything new.
L'eau profonde était trouvée le long de
Deep
la côte.
water was to be found
Mais à cause
all
du
along
fureur
this
des vents du
coast,
sud,
but
elle est
because it's
battue sans
exposed to the
cesse
full
par des
fury
vagues
of the wind
énormes
from
qui
the
se
south,
brisent avec un
it is battered
rugissement
ceaselessly by
contre
huge
ces
waves
murs de
which
granit.
break with a roar against these granite walls.
Among the plants peculiar to this Ile de Marie is a new kind of typha, from the stalks of which the inhabitants make their canoes. These people, they made no hostile signs when we landed, and mutual confidence was quickly established. Later, when my companions were occupied with their geographic work, I made my way along toward the northern side of the bay. Pushing my way through thick undergrowth, I perceived what appeared to be a monument. In the shade of some ancient casuarinas stood a conical structure roughly made of pieces of bark. Removing several of the larger pieces, I perceived within a thick heap of white ashes. I plunged my hand into the middle and felt something solid. Drawing it out, I found it to be a human jawbone. This greenery, these flowers, these protecting trees, this deep bed of young grass which covered the ashes, all united to convince me that I had just discovered a tomb.
Sometimes I felt a sense of trespass when walking on the island. Was I just like the early explorers, unaware of sacred ground? Or was there another pain rising from this place? What other blood was spilt here? As a child, I had terrible nightmares. I was in the ocean. I could see the island, and then the water turned red. I couldn't move. The harpoon was coming towards me. I screamed, but it kept coming. I'm dying. Again. It's coming again and again.
It's man again in times gone before, upon the high seas, the contest, it was fairer, man brought to his knees before that great beast, the king of the sea, hunted down for his oil as he rode wild and free. It's man against beast, only one can survive. It's man against beast, only one stays alive.
I remember feeling so sad that so many whales had been slaughtered in our beautiful bays. But it's funny how it's often the little things that come back to you. I remember one day, Papa, who really ever got angry, was furious that I'd helped myself to some olives curing on the kitchen bench.
Vega, you know we have always told you nothing before dinner. Hey, this is tantamount to stealing. Do you not think we feed you well enough, eh? And do you not remember those stories I told you of those that were sent here to Maria as prisoners for stealing little more than a biscuit, much less one of our precious olives?
Sir, it is in contemplation to form another penal settlement, this time on Maria Island, near Oyster Bay. The distance from Maria Island is at least 5 miles, so that all idea of escape without a boat is chimerical.
50 prisoners on a government vessel have been drafted to a new settlement with the appointment of Peter Murdoch as the island's commandant.
The convicts were as miserable-looking set of vagabonds as I ever saw on landing. However, they improved on acquaintance. A little stealing and a good deal of loafing is what I have to contend with. The men will immediately be put to the task of building their own accommodation.
Wake every morning,
Wash, shake, change.
work all day,
Locked in chains.
you dregs of society,
Banished to Maria.
bend and toil
For your great empire.
Mess hall breakfast,
Rules the same.
back to your posts.
Then
To
to
work again.
We try to school you,
You try in vain.
respect the Bible,
to
Dull the pain.
we try to teach you,
your
Godly ways.
but it's sweat and dirt.
That marks our days.
By 1832, the Darlington Penal Colony was abandoned, partly due to the success of the colony at Port Arthur and the ease of escape from Maria by convicts, many using rafts similar to those made by the Aborigines. For a time, Maria Island again knew tranquillity, leased to Charles Seal and again used for whaling, sheep grazing and smuggling.
July 15th, 1842. In consequence of the number of prison ships about to sail for this colony, the local government has resolved upon immediately reoccupying Maria Island as a probation station. Separate apartment cells are to be built to prevent any unnatural acts among the prisoners.
Across the Tasman, in the Dominion of New Zealand, the British Empire was fighting a battle for supremacy over the traditional inhabitants.
The 5 married chiefs, Hohepa te Umaroa, te Kometi, Te Waratiti, Te Rahui and Matiuma are hereby charged with open rebellion against the Queen. They are to be immediately transported to Van Diemen's Land.
A great advantage would result to New Zealand if these men were really kept to hard labour and allowed to correspond with their friends. In this manner, many of the turbulent chiefs would ascertain that the government really intended to punish severely all those who connected themselves with murderers and robbers, and would find out what the punishment of transportation really is.
The Hobart Town Courier, 28th of November, 1846. We're glad to learn that the local government's not been indifferent to the peculiar case of the Maoris now in the penitentiary. It's been suggested that they be placed at Maria Island under the supervision of Dr. John Jennings Imrie, many years a resident among the tribe and well acquainted with their language.
Monday, January 18th, 1847. At 6 a.m, visited the Maoris. Employed all day getting wattles for hut. The Gratitude called on her way to Waterloo Point. The Maoris all very tired. The Lieutenant Governor approved sugar and tobacco for them. April 19th. Wet day. O'Haper complaining of pain in the sides. Ordered feet in hot water and a dose of salts. April 21st. Maoris employed cutting and carrying wood, except O'Haper, ordered to keep to his bed. April 28th. Showery. Gave the Maoris a holiday. O'Haper better, though very much fatigued. June 23rd. Planted potatoes. Dr. Brownell visited and tried O'Haper's lungs. Found them in a very bad state. I fear consumption. Ordered a blister. June 25th. Arose 6 a.m. Very fine day. Planted cauliflowers. O'Haper very ill. June 28th. O'Haper sinking fast. July 19th, 1847. At 4, visited the Maoris, found O'Haper very nearly gone. At 5 a.m, he breathed his last, without a struggle. The others all very sorrowful. Waratiti, Petrina, Kumati, and Te Rahui.
This place, it once held warriors of dignity and pride. But this prison of such beauty is where one of these men died. Te Oomara, only 24 years old, when far away from home was laid in the ground so cold. In the falsity of justice for the good of but a few, men taken from their culture far away from all they knew, now with different views and standards, we try to right such wrongs. Te Oomara, your people for you long. Now many years later in your land, your bones now lie. May they rest among your loved ones. May your spirit with them fly. Toarra-Marra-Monah, only 24 years old. May you rest among your loved ones. May your story ever be told. Was a year of revolution throughout Europe, causing the sudden collapse of established regimes and threatening the survival of others. In Ireland too, albeit the country had not yet begun to recover from the disaster of the Great Famine, there was a new generation ready to take up arms, the young Islanders, including one William Smith O'Brien. O'Brien, a member of Parliament, eventually became disillusioned with peaceable negotiations and led an uprising in August 1848 in what later became known as the Siege of the Widow McCormick's cabbage garden.
The rebellion ended in failure. When he was captured, Smith O'Brien was sentenced to death at Clonmel. To prevent the possibility of making a martyr of him and his colleagues, his sentence was commuted to transportation to Van Diemen's Land.
There are still some of the old prison buildings on the island today. When we were little children, we used to explore them and pretend that we were convicts. Blanche, you be the overseer. Roderick, you be the Irishman, and I'll be the governor. I always thought the story of the Irishman was so romantic. He was arrested for fighting for the poor in his country against the British. He was transported for treason. Mama told me that he kept a diary and wrote to his wife Lucy the whole time that he was imprisoned in Tasmania.
Dearest Lucy, my time away from you all leaves me in doubt of all I have fought for. In Ireland, the jail and the poorhouse are the two most prominent structures in every aggregation of buildings entitled to be called a town. But to find a jail in one of the loveliest spots formed by the hand of nature, in one of her loneliest solitudes, creates a revulsion of feelings which I cannot describe.
Dearest, it's most pleasant to me to get such kind, affectionate words from you when I think how far we are apart, the small chance of our meeting for a long time. My heart often gives way, and it seems scarcely worth writing that which will not be read for so long. And yet how we prize yours when they come. Fare thee well, my own true love. Farewell for a while. I'm gonna wait, but I'll be back, though I go 10,000 miles. 10,000 miles away, my own true love. 10,000 miles or more, and the rocks may bend and the seas may burn if I should not return. Oh, can't you see that lonesome dove sitting on an ivy tree? She's weeping for her own true love, as I will weep for mine. Oh, come ye back, my own true love, and stay for a while. For if I've had a friend all on this earth, you've been a friend to me.
The government of England made a great parade of clemency in sparing the lives of the Irish rebels. But it surely would have been more merciful to have put me to death at Clonmel than to have me sent to a colony distant 16,000 miles from all whom I love, where they've placed me on an island entirely inaccessible to any of my friends and subjected me to solitary confinement, depriving me even of the advantages which an ordinary convict of the lowest class enjoys. Yet will I say to my foes, more can I bear than you dare execute. On last Christmas Day, I was confined within the walls of an Irish prison. My lot then did not appear very enviable. Yet how happy was it in comparison with my present fate. I was then surrounded by my family. Now, I am alone. It has frequently occurred to me that the heavenly bodies form a link of sympathy between two persons, separated from each other by a great intervening distance. It is at all events a pleasing idea to reflect that the eyes of those whom we love will gaze upon the same object which we contemplate with interest and admiration.
Though the stars in the southern sky blaze with different lights, do you see them yet? Do you glimpse their might? And do the flowers in the fields at home appear the same to you as those I glimpse across the way, near hidden from my view? And you, my own true love, see hidden in my words, my heart, although nigh broken, wings towards you as a bird. it may not end in glory. I wish you not the cost of a country's fight for freedom and my part in all that's been. So look out to the heavens now. Trust what can be seen. For as all things must pass, so too these trials here, and pray we're reunited. Now I hold you dear.
Our beautiful island a prison, but it wasn't to be forever.
Dunbabin's the name. My father leased this island for 7 years. He grazed sheep and grew grain. He used to tell us stories of chasing the herd, at one time all the way up Mount Moriah. But Dad was wilier even than the sheep. Old Sam Willard once said that Father was the smartest man with sheep he'd ever seen, and the condition improved no end once he took over. My uncle had a place down at Long Point on the south side of the island. There the wheat crop was sometimes damaged by seals rolling in it as it ripened in the paddocks. There were 3 Chinese on the island too, Young, Sing and Chow. Well, they collected and dried abalone and shellfish and muttonfish, which they sent to the Chinese community on the goldfields in Victoria. Now, when it was dried, muttonfish looked very much like boot leather. Well, Father tried it, and he decided it tasted like it too.
Whalers, convicts, farmers, and then we Benakis arrived. As you know, Papa's family were silk merchants from Lombardy in Italy. I suppose the love for silk is in our blood. Grandmama Cortelezzi was Spanish. Papa's full name was Angelo Guido Diego Benacchi. My grandparents were very displeased when my parents married at 17. Mama's father was Flemish-Belgian, an innkeeper, not good enough for the Benakis. So Mama and Papa moved to London. They then came to Australia with my eldest brother Louis, my brother Roderick, and my eldest sister Helena. My generous Papa, despite being dispossessed by his family, named Louis after his own father. Papa and Mama fell in love with Maria Island.
Gentlemen, one moment. I am sure that fragrance is of the peach. Yes, and ripe. Oh, indeed. The climate and soil that will ripen these are perfecto for the vine and the mulberry.
Papa applied to lease the whole island so that he could grow mulberries for silkworms, grapes for wine, and much more.
The Hobart Mercury, March 1884. The adaptability of the climate for the purpose of silk culture has often been discussed during these past years. There has arrived in the colony during this last week, however, a gentleman who intends to test the question. Signor Di Benacchi believes that the climate of Tasmania will be found admirably adapted for the propagation of the silkworm, as it resembles in many respects the silk-producing districts of Italy and of the south of France.
Mr. Bauer, please take note. The silkworm eggs are to be imported from Lombardy in the order of 3 million. By 1894, our wine production will be increased to 97,000 gallons from a variety of grapes, including Cabernet Sauvignon, Golden Chasselas, White Hermitage, Black Hamburg, Muscatel, Riesling, Tokay Burgundy, and Sauvignon.
I love the stories Papa told me. There was one about the time the politicians came to the island.
Yeah, it was in 1886, only 2 years after we arrived. The politicians, they were so impressed to see that we had 40 acres of glorious vineyards, mulberries, and citrus plantations. There was a rumour that when they visited, my darling wife had tied bunches of grapes onto the grapevines with silk and cut them with a pair of silver scissors. I'd never seen our mate so indignant. Those grapes, they were cut by Mr. Brown, the Minister for the Lands, and ceremoniously presented to my dear wife in front of many dignitaries and residents. There was no trickery at all.
Oh, I so wish I'd been born then. Papa told me such wonderful stories of those times.
Yeah, that same year, another party visited, and a huge banquet was held at our cottage. Our veranda was decorated with beautiful Venetian and Chinese lanterns, and the brothers Crocchie, they played fine music by Supe, Waldteufel, Donizetti, Metra, Verdi, and Stranga. Ladies and gentlemen, a toast, hey, for I am a fortunate man. I and my darling wife have two beautiful daughters, and now a third son. Hey, this new boy of ours we will name Diego Maria Tasman. And not only are my family fortunes blessed, but also this beautiful place, Maria Island. Hey, Darlington shall now be known as San Diego. Worthy of the name, we now have a school, general stores, a bakery, a butcher, a blacksmith, and a grand, and of course, the licensed hotel. We have new residences for the workers, including 12 brick cottages. A coffee palace is to be built on the foundations of the old single-cell apartments. We will even use the convict-built hot kilns for great presses. Enjoy!
In 1889, my family moved to Spring Bay on the East Coast to our home, Louisville. I was born there 2 years later. When I was still a baby, my youngest brother, Diego, who was only 4, died at Louisville. My eldest sister, Lena, later told me that he'd eaten poisonous belladonna lily. Poor Mama and Papa were over in Melbourne and couldn't return in time, so they sent word to Mr. Bauer to have him buried on Maria Island. My brother Roderick later told me that he'd feared for his life. It was so stormy, and the sad little coffin floated at the bottom of the whaleboat as they crossed over to the island. It broke Mama's heart to see that little grave in the cemetery overlooking the Mercury Passage.
You're left here, my child, this place of your birth, of your father's grand schemes, on this island of dreams. My heart despairs, so farewell you, my child, and from such a distance my dreams, they ran wild. And your brother, he tells with such fear in his eyes, the tempest that play across the wild sea and skies. And as they carried you over to that beautiful isle, I'll hold dear the memory of your sweet angel smile. You're left here, my child, on this place of your birth, of your father's grand schemes, on this island of dreams.
Dreams of silk, dreams of wine, dreams of cement. None of them made the money that Papa and Mama were so hopeful for. We moved to Melbourne when I was only 5 years old. We children missed Louisville and Maria Island so much. After a year in grey old Melbourne, Mama, Papa and we girls moved to London. The boys stayed in Australia. Well, London, that was my other growing up. Papa wrote to friends still living on his beloved island, and they kept us informed of its comings and goings. I was so young when we left that if it hadn't been for those letters and Papa's stories, all told with his nostalgic charm, I might have forgotten all about that earlier part of my life. The constant theme was that Papa was of course again working with silk production. I can just close my eyes and feel my hands on those cool bolts of cloth.
My dearest son, Roderick, these last 2 years since Meta's death have weighed heavy in my heart. But I feel quite happy now to have fulfilled a sacred duty towards her memory by erecting this monument, and I can leave England now with a light heart. There is no doubt that there is in Australia a great scope for big and remunerative business. I sincerely hope that you have succeeded in your negotiations re Maria Island, as from its success depends our future in the colonies.
I left England in 1919 to stay with Papa and Roderick, and of course our travels took us back to Maria Island. Papa's dreams were of cement, but I was soon dreaming of something more like romance. Papa bought shares in a small company that bought the Darlington township and a large limestone deposit. It was at this time that I met Alec McRae. I never imagined that I would fall so much in love with the place of Papa's dreams, still less with one of its people. Darling Alec, when we married, he even adopted the family name Benaki and became Benaki McRae. After Alec built our house, he built one for dear Papa to live nearby. Mind you, I then got an inkling of what our darling Mama had lived with. The man never stopped his dreaming and scheming.
Mr. Benaki's company has formed the National Portland Cement Company to mine the limestone from the fossil cliffs. Machinery has been brought in from Copenhagen, from Hull and from London. the industrial era on Maria Island is born. The cement works officially opened on the 8th of February 1924, with trains to transport the limestone from the fossil cliff quarries, electric lights through Darlington, this town truly flourishing, and its greatest advocate, Mr. Diego Benaki, witness to the dream. Maria Island's population is at present around 500.
November 29th, 1923, the resident engineer. Dear Sir, I have not had personal experience in the use of seawater for cement slurry mixtures, but when informed that it was intended to be used at Maria Island, I felt no surprise or uneasiness about it, as I am aware that it is in use in many places without ill effects resulting. Yours faithfully, Sydney F. Strudwick, Chief Chemist. May 22nd, 1924. Regarding the trial sample of fossil rockstone. The latter result for 1,3 sand mortar are far better than any hitherto obtained herein, and indicates that an excellent cement can be produced from the fossil rockstone, having the necessary hardening qualities and high strength to fulfill the most exacting conditions. July 31st, 1924. Limestone supplies. Now that the fossil rock deposit has been worked for several weeks, it is clear that the average percentage of carbonate of lime is sufficient to allow the use of a small amount of clay to obtain practically ideal cement mixing. July 7, 1924. The reported lengthy period of 23 hours for hard set of one sample from this shipment is difficult of explanation. None of our cement has ever given such an extremely slow set as this. Yours faithfully, Sydney F. Strudwick, Chief Chemist.
Benaki's health was failing, and he returned to Melbourne, where he died in 1925. After an initial flourish, the cement works faced hard times, and the Great Depression heralded its final demise in 1930.
Oh, Papa, we miss you so. But if I'm honest, I'm glad that you weren't present to see yet another of your dreams fail. Our beloved island. No silk, no wine, now no cement works. But Papa, you have two beautiful granddaughters. We named our firstborn Barbara after Mama, and our second little angel. Oh, Papa, you'd have loved her. We called her Heather. After I was married, old Mrs. Fox taught me a lot of household skills, such as sewing and baking bread. There was a school at Darlington, but it was too great a distance for our girls, and they were taught by a succession of governesses. So many things we had to do for ourselves. In 1937, a pedal wireless was brought over so that we islanders could communicate with the mainland of Tasmania. It worked by one person powering the generator by pedalling, while another operated a Morse code transmitter. 3 of Mr. Howe's daughters were the first to operate this new device: Faith, Hope, and Charity.
Okay, Faith, the power is running.
Just a sec, I'll catch my breath.
What did Dad say we were needing?
Hope, run back and get the list.
Charity, your legs are useless.
Says who, Hope? You run so slow.
Whereabouts is Dr. Cobb's list?
It's with Miss Wall. Ouch, let me go.
Faith, you sure you spelt that word right.
Don't have time to look it up.
Now Mrs. Adkins needs her medicine.
So pedal harder, giddy up.
Okay, Faith, the power is running.
Just a sec, I'll catch my breath.
What did Dad say we were needing?
Hope, run back and get the list.
Charity, your legs are useless.
Says who, Hope? You run so slow.
Whereabouts is Dr. Cobb's list?
It's with Miss Wolf. Ouch, let me go.
Faith, you sure you spelt that word right?
Don't have time to look it up.
Now Mrs. Adkins needs her medicine.
So pedal harder, giddy up.
We left our beloved island, feeling the need for a better education for Barbara and Heather. Only 6 months later, my darling Alec took ill and died, only 39 years old. We missed the island life, of course, but heard regularly from all our dear friends. There were some wonderful people in that special bit of paradise. The Atkins, the Robies from the south of the island, the Howells, Cuthbert Cobb, who ran the Post and General Store, and his sister Joan, the Frenches, the Haig family, and Henry and Ruby Hunt, who lived on the house on the hill. Ruby ran the old pedal wireless between Maria Island and the mainland for 12 years.
Dearest Vega, can you believe it? 1966 already, and so many changes. You know we still miss you and your lovely family here on Maria. Now it appears we'll all become exiles to the mainland. The government has decided the whole of the island is to become a wildlife reserve. Can you imagine? Ruby, of course, is very sad to leave. I don't believe she'll last long once she leaves the island. But there you have it. I guess the place was never really ours to begin with. But it will be strange to visit once the farms are no longer working and when Mr. Cobb's shop is no more. I suppose you must have felt a bit this way when your father's cement works closed down.
So many people that I knew and loved are now gone. Mama and Papa, of course, and my beloved husband Alec, taken so early. In a way, it seems right that the island should be returned to nature. Papa used to say that the space between this world and the next is very thin. You can feel it as you walk on this island. The stories of those who have gone before us are still to be heard, not just in the books and journals and photographs that remind us of our own mortality, but in the trees, the rocks, and in the sea that crashes against the same shore as in the days gone by, the same shore that it will erode bit by bit over time to come.
Find me sitting at this table with my friend Finn and my friend John. Friend Matani tells the stories of things long gone, long gone. We may take a glass together. The whiskey makes it all so clear, fires out dulled imaginations, and it feels so near, so near. I feel so near to the crashing of the waves. I feel so near to the howling of the winds. I feel so near to the flowers in the fields. Feel so near. The old man looks out to the island says this place is endless then, says there's no distance here to mention. We might all fall in, all fall in. No distance to the spirits of the living, no distance to the spirits of the dead. And as he turned, his eyes were shining, and he proudly said, I feel so near to the crashing of the waves. I feel so near to the howling of the wind. I feel so near to the flowers in the fields. Feel so near. Feel so near the crashing of the waves. I feel so near the howling of the wind. Feel so near to the flowers in the field. Feel so near. On this island of dreams, there's a song that creeps into your soul. Toil and grand schemes in this place where magic can unfold. On this island of dreams, nature's beauty shows her lovely face. One time tamed, now set free again. Still mankind has found a place. Whales and seals abound, albatross still found, waders, geese, robin, cod safe from harm, bear tongue, potoroo, wombat, grey kangaroo, all roam safe and free among such history. Loose your dreams as you wander here. Let this special place weave its spell. May its caretakers flourish here, for we understand so well that this wondrous